What's up, guys? It's Pone Cakes. So, since the end of Wave 2, I've had a bunch of different conversations with multiple different community members, and everyone keeps asking me the same handful of questions. Pone, the competition starts next week. Which starter are you choosing for that push to 150? What do I think my team's going to look like? Or who ideally would I like in my team comp for that push? Who should I invest in versus not invest in, considering we're going to have less energy than we did in Wave 2? And overall just general approach strategies, heading into the competition. So with that said, it's Friday night. Grab me a nice little Jack and Coke. Grab my headset. Figure why not bang out a video. Couple caveats though. We only have 10 days to test this amazing game. So while I'm gonna be transparent and tell you exactly how I'm gonna attack probably the first 90 levels and then some pivot points, don't get so hopped up on the competition that you know you forget that it is an alpha. Have fun. We only have it for a limited amount of time, and then it goes away for a couple of months or a handful of months, and then we don't get to play it. So find your fun. Like I said, there's multiple different ways to skin the cat. Second caveat is I apologize for not having some in-game content. Most of my stream and in-game footage was focused mainly on the 151 Fafnir, getting some bug footage to go along with combat logs for dev reports and everything else like that. Help make the competition experience for the 151 for those that are going to be participating in it a little bit more less buggy. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So, with those two said, shout out to Raven Pyros. I'm hopping on your site, my guy. Awesome community tool. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, ravenpyros.com in the heroes section. And lots of great information if you're looking to study up before we hit Wave 3, especially for those that may or may not have participated in Wave 1 and Wave 2. So, with that said, let's get to it. You know, Start with the first question I keep getting asked. Who's my starter of choice? I went with Ramses in Wave 2. He was super solid, did exactly what I needed him to do as far as clearing waves. I'm not going to go with him again. I'm not going to run it back. I considered Lady Zoc, but with the way that bleeds were working in Wave 2 and infinitely stacking, I'm a little wary that if they did fix it, it might affect her as well. So when I looked at what I needed to really focus on to kind of push this unofficial race first to 150, Guan Yu, which I'll pull him up in case you haven't seen his kit, does exactly he does everything that I need him to do as far as a Slayer or DPS, right? The fact that he has a built-in Thunderbolt and can chunk 5% of target's max HP is massive. And we'll get to another character that he will synergize well, assuming they fixed him. Um, Makes him even more broken if the fix is actually in as proposed. But yeah, Guan Yu does everything that I need a DPS to do. If I have him in the lead, he gives me 20% attack. He applies Drain, chunks 5%, and outside of that, he gets an initiative up. He gets to it. He has two attacks that attacks all allies, so he's great at AOE clears. Very, very, very strong DPS. And with that said, all three are good. You'll end up getting all three of them by the time you're pushing into the mid game. So even though you have one, you can still potentially use both. I'm just going to go with Guan Yu because hopefully, we're talking about the next character I'm super hyped for is Shishi. Definitely one of the stronger, the stronger defender units in the game. His initiative leader buff is solid, but being able to do protect and a shield on all allies, defense up, and do an attack down, really great. Um, with that said, though, what I'm super excited for is this fix right here. Any Tion allies would join the attack using their basic ability after he's been awakened once. So, fingers crossed that it's fixed, because if it is fixed, then having Shishi and Guan Yu joint attack with Guan Yu coming in, especially on bosses, and chunking an additional 5% on a joint attack, we're just gonna melt bosses. I mean, he's just that's what Guan Yu does. He just chunks and melts bosses. The only issue with Shishi is in Wave 2, his passive was bugged with the steadfast. So anytime that he would get a debuff, instead of placing the barrier on just himself, he spread it out to the entire team. So hopefully it's not fixed. But let's be honest, it probably will be, which is that's fine. They can fix the barrier as long as they give me my joint attack. I'll be perfectly happy. Because at the end of the day, super solid character fills that tank role. Initially to start though, we'll have Guan Yu as my starter. You get Isolt shortly after, as well as Tristane. I actually use Isolt and Tristane all the way to 150 in my 150 clear with all rares. Isolt, in my opinion, is probably the best overall rare for progression from 1 to 150. And the reason why is her imprint's amazing. More often than not, I mean, not only do you want her as a character, but then you also want her for her imprint as well. The sustain that she gives you helps you progress further than you probably should. Um, the man's great. If you awaken Fiverr, she gets defense up and attack up. She's removing debuffs. Solid unit. You can't ask more for a support. Like I said, her imprint is amazing. Outside of that, what makes her the most broken, in my opinion, is that 14% speed in all battles. Until you get an Aphrodite or a Quetzalcoatl, being able to go first before the enemy waves and even the bosses is going to help you progress so much more faster than not having a speed lead. There's been countless times that me and the boys of the Alpha Voice chat were chilling in Discord and somebody would come in and they'd be stuck at like floor 60 or 90 or insert, whatever stages. And it's like, well, what's your speed? It's either a speed issue, it's either a DPS issue, or a sustainability issue. And so it's more often than not, it was, hey, it ended up being a speed issue because by the time their comp got to go, they're sitting by they're looking at an enemy wave with 50% shield and all these buffs and everything else, and you're just trying to take a chisel to a brick wall. And speed speed just helps. And so that's why Isolt and Guan Yu would definitely be the solid slam first two picks. Um, for that, like I said, for you get your DPS, you have your support, and then as far as the tank role, you'll more than likely start with Tristane. If you get Shishi early, by all means, I'm hard swapping to Shishi, especially if his joint attack is fixed. And then that leaves basically one character slot, right? That leaves us one slot until we get to boss levels. Um, so as far as that fourth slot of who I'm going to choose for basic floors, there's a decent amount of options. I mean, you can go with any one of the other starters. You can go with Icarus. You can go with Hippolyta. But me, I'm going with my girl Scotty. Scotty is by far, as far as rares go, on par with epics, if not some of the legendaries, with her functionality in regards to progression, right? If she has enough accuracy and enough speed, she makes clearing content, I won't say trivial, but it's a lot easier than what it would than it it's a lot easier than it would be if you weren't running Scotty. And this is just keep on. This is just talking about rares and easily attainable and investable units. Yes, if you end up getting your Hercules or your Zeuses or whatever at 30 or 90, it's very clear that, until you start getting to like the 140s, you can pretty much brute force your way through a lot of the floors, and you really don't need CC until until roughly around the 141, 142, definitely 142 and above. Um, but until you start getting into those higher levels, and you can swap out for epics and legendaries. If you're looking for rares to get the job done to push you all the way to 120 easily, Man, you can't go wrong with having Scotty on your team. Free, you have the core ability, which almost ends up being a full AOE because normally you've killed one. So the core ability is hitting the remaining three enemies. Her ultimate's hitting everybody. I mean, you're freezing people. You're doing speed downs. Like she's for what she does in a rare, her kit is super good for progression. And my ideal pick for the fourth character on my team for my slot, for that slot. So, recap: starters Guan Yu. I'm going Isolde. We're instantly slamming Tristan. Probably switching out for Shishi if the joint attack works. And then rolling with our girl Scotty in the fourth slot. And then as far as flex positions, when we start going into boss fights, you can't go wrong with Hippolyta. Um, if you can get her awakened, I mean it's she shield, speed up, ward, defense up. She's that really really solid defender that buffs you up really nicely. And at Awakening 5, allies from the Olympus faction also join the attack, which is huge. I mean, joint attack is probably one of the best skills to focus on with a push for progression through 1 to 150. I mean, there's more often times that you come to those levels with Sphinx or Isis or Quetzalcoatl or any of these characters that you need to die. They need to die. You need to burn them down. Joint attack just helps you bridge that DPS gap to take down some of those troublesome units. So definitely a solid flex unit. Same thing goes with Icarus. Um, he slaps, man. Like there's no other way to put it. Like the fact that he can, once he's awakened 3, he gets a 60% attack increase. I mean, with Sharpen, I mean, the dude does a lot of damage. It may not look like it, but for a rare, if you awaken 5 him, he does a lot of damage. So he's definitely a solid one. If you're looking for some base level rare units to really help you push through 120, I mean, you couldn't go wrong with a team of Guan Yu, Isolde, one of the tanks, Scotty, and Icarus. Solid comp, easily beat if you stop to farm. Like I said, if joint attack's a thing, you can either do Icarus or Polita, slap a couple solar flares, and then grab another 1 or 2 thunderbolts on floor 68. I mean, you're looking good. And then you stop to get a Heka. You stop to get a Heka on floor 88. Yeah, you're gonna have no problems with 120. So you know that's pretty much my ideal. Again, you can use Ramses, you can use Lady Zoc. Later on, you can use Maria Marevna. When you start getting to some of the higher tier stages, she works really well on waves or floors that have multiple Isises or Isis, just because of like the 8 to 10 mins they're stacking plus shields and everything else. She does a large amount of damage, um, even though it's mostly single target for some of her big damage. But when you have to take care of that ISIS or whatever else, I mean, she is another solid unit that you can flex in to clear some of those stages. So other than that, it might be some hot takes. I know some people like running Dagonet. I think Dagonet, in my opinion, is an imprint only god. I You can use him. He's definitely viable to clear content, but I feel you get more use out of having him as an imprint, especially with the way it more often likely feels like it's proccing a lot more than 15%. But having it on multiple characters, especially your DPS characters, it really helps you burst down a lot of waves. And if that character happens to have an AoE S1, man, waves get cleared fast. So with that said, That's my overall approach. A lot of these characters can be used. Ankh is basically a pseudo Aphrodite with her initiative up. You can't go wrong with Tut. You know, playing acid and curse and vulnerable and everything else is not bad either. So definitely something to think about. But as far as my approach, starting with our boy Guan Yu, slamming Izzle, rocking with Tristan, if not getting Shishi, and then going Scotty, and that's my four for floor progression. And on bosses, it's either going to be Hippolyta or Icarus. Like that's my go-to. Like I said, it worked in wave two. It's definitely going to work. It's probably going to work again in wave three. I'll readjust just like everybody else will when we hit 430, get our first legendary. Hopefully everybody gets their Hercules or their Zeus. Hit 90. Hopefully you get your Shamash or a Heimdall or something, and you know, hopefully RNGesus kind of shines down on everybody. And but yeah, no, that's my take. That's going to be my approach. There's nothing that anybody else hasn't already kind of talked about or beat the dead horse. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or thoughts for the most part, or kind of want me to go into epics and legendaries and everything, uh, yeah, just let me know. But until then, I appreciate you guys, hopping on the video. Feel free to like and subscribe. Like I said, I mainly stream, so check me out. Check me out on Wednesday when it goes live. I'll be streaming my entire run from 1 to 150. We got six last time. We're definitely shooting for that unofficial top spot, but hey, there's a lot of solid guys out there that are pushing for it as well. But we're gonna give it a college try. So with that, I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna go finish the rest of this Jack and Coke. Wish you all the best. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you next time. Take it easy.